Marie was often seen as an ugly girl because she was tall, usually messy, and behaved more like a boy than a proper lady. She spent her days buried in books and doing chores, treated more like a servant than a daughter. Her older sister was the one meant to marry into a noble family, but after a tragic accident took her life, everything changed. Now Marie must step into her sister's place and become the bride. Baron Shadowrun had two daughters. His eldest, Anastasia, was cheerful, friendly, and beautiful with golden hair, just like a real princess. Marie, the younger sister, was the complete opposite. She was tall, often dirty, and acted more like a boy. She spent her days reading books and working like a maid for her family. Each day, Marie woke up in a small, dark hut where she lived alone. It wasn't a place fit for a lady. Her family was not too rich, so she did most of the work. She washed up quickly at a nearby well, then went to her family's house to cook. Her parents, Anastasia, and their younger brother, Cedric, all ate together at a bright dining table. Marie, however, had to eat leftover scraps alone in the dirty kitchen. At night, she worked in her father's place, balancing the family's money and signing papers using his name, using only a small lamp for light. Once finished, she would quietly wash again at the well, staring up at the stars. Tomorrow was her birthday. She only wished for one good day. The next day, the Shadowrun family hosted a big banquet. Nobles filled the hall and music played. Anastasia looked stunning in her fancy gown. Cedric commented on her beauty, and everyone seemed to admire her. Marie stood quietly off to the side, wearing a plain dress with messy hair. Then her father stood up and gave a speech. He thanked everyone for coming and announced that Anastasia was the star of the night. Marie lowered her head, realizing the truth. This wasn't a birthday celebration for her. It was her sister's debut party arranged to help her find a fiancé. Feeling heartbroken, Marie ran out of the hall. She walked quickly through the corridors and into the garden. Sitting by the pond, she stared at her reflection and felt ashamed of her appearance. Then a man approached and asked her for directions. Marie silently pointed him in the right direction. The man assumed she was a maid, but his companion corrected him, saying that the Shadowruns only employed one elderly servant. Understanding that Marie must be one of the Baron's daughters, the man apologized for the mistake. Marie noticed his formal clothing and realized he was from Ipsandra. She mentioned this, surprising the man with her accuracy. She spoke about Ipsandrian traditions and even shared a story about a red raggedy cat from their folklore. The man, whose name was Kairos, was impressed by her knowledge. Their conversation flowed easily. But then Marie remembered her father's warnings. He had always said that women shouldn't show off what they know. Suddenly embarrassed, she apologized and tried to leave. Kairos gently stopped her and looked at her kindly. Marie froze. His flawless face made her feel plain and worthless. Tears filled her eyes. Kairos apologized again for mistaking her identity but remained curious about why she wore such simple clothes. Marie answered honestly, saying it was because she wasn't pretty. Kairos responded by pulling her closer and telling her she was beautiful. Hearing those words was too much for Marie. She quickly told him where to find her sister and walked away in tears. She ran through the woods and returned to her tiny house. No matter how kind Kairos had been, her sadness wouldn't go away. A month later, a letter arrived at the Shadowrun home. It was a marriage proposal for Anastasia from Count Granado, a rich and powerful noble expected to become a duke. Their father was overjoyed and immediately ordered Marie to write a formal reply and send announcements to all nearby nobles and relatives. Later, Anastasia spoke to Marie in private. She admitted she was nervous about marrying a man whose face she couldn't remember. She had also heard troubling rumors about him disliking women. Marie tried to stay hopeful, pointing out that the letter at least sounded full of passion. Their mood lifted when the topic shifted to fashion. Anastasia had a secret love for designing suits for man. Since Marie was tall, the suits always looked good on her. Anastasia brought out one of her hidden outfits and made Marie promise to keep it a secret. Their parents had once destroyed her designs after finding out about her interest. Anastasia dreamed of starting a clothing business in the capital if their family ever became poor. She encouraged Marie to follow her own talents too. The two sisters loved each other deeply, but tragedy struck. Anastasia died in an accident on her way to meet Count Granado. Marie was devastated. She remembered how her sister had once told her the story of the red raggedy cat, and the memory brought tears to her eyes. As she sat remembering, her mother suddenly slapped her hard. Marie fell to the floor. Her mother screamed in anger, blaming Marie for Anastasia's death. She said that Marie should have died instead. Her rage continued until her father arrived and pulled her away, not out of concern for Marie, but to make sure there were no visible bruises. Her father then decided to send Marie to Count Granado in Anastasia's place. The family had already used up their wealth to prepare for the wedding. He told Marie this was the only way she could make up for everything. Though it didn't make sense, Marie began to believe she was at fault simply for being born. A few days later, Marie traveled with her father to the Count's estate. During the carriage ride, he kept reminding her how to behave, insulting her the entire time. Marie quietly agreed with everything and tried to smile, though he mocked even that. At the gate of the estate, the guards refused them entry. The letter had only arrived that morning. Her father became angry and tried to attack the maid who spoke to them, but she quickly defended herself and pinned him to the ground. Just then, Marie stepped out of the carriage. As she lowered her head, her veil slipped off. The maid immediately recognized her and called her Lady Marie. She introduced herself as Mio and ordered the guards to alert the Count. Inside Kairos, the same man Marie had met in the garden was furious when he learned that Anastasia's sister had come in her place. But when he saw Marie's face, his anger vanished. Marie was shocked to discover that the man she had met in the garden was actually Count Granado himself. Her father explained Anastasia's death, but when he tried to speak badly of Marie, Kairos gave him a cold warning stare. Calmly, Kairos announced that Marie would stay the night at the palace. Mio brought Marie to a private room and served her food. When Marie asked where her father was, Mio explained that he was in a meeting with Count Granado. As Mio prepared tea, Marie identified the blend and named the spices. Mio was impressed by her knowledge and sincere appreciation. Not long after, Kairos arrived at the door. Marie bowed and apologized again for her father. Kairos explained that her father had already left and taken the engagement gifts to Anastasia's grave. Kairos then asked if she was being mistreated at home. Marie said no. In her mind, her family's coldness was just tough training. She believed they were trying to help her survive, but Kairos thought otherwise. He remembered the clothes she wore at the banquet. Those clothes are for widows and servants, and became more certain that she had been abused. When he asked if she was unhappy, Marie couldn't answer. She had never allowed herself to hope for anything more. Kairos then gave Mio a quiet order to take her away. In her mind, Marie thought she was being sent away because she wasn't beautiful enough. But Mio smiled warmly and led her to a private bath. Marie assumed she was there to clean, but Mio explained the bath was meant for her. Inside, a bath caretaker named Tunica helped her undress and prepared a large tub filled with warm water and flower petals. Tunica gently washed her hair and skin, promising she would shine like a new person by the end. Marie slowly relaxed and even fell asleep in the warm bath. That evening, Kairos waited at the stairs. When Marie appeared, she looked like a completely different person. Her hair was smooth, her dress elegant, and her skin glowing. Even she couldn't believe how she looked in the mirror. One look at Marie leaves Kairos speechless. It truly feels as if she has been reborn. Kairos called his mother, Lulu, to meet her. Lulu studied Marie carefully from head to toe. As the head of the family, Lulu's approval was needed for the marriage to happen. After a long silence, Lulu finally said that Marie lacked something. Kairos was ready to defend her, but Lulu continued. What Marie lacked was confidence. She said Marie needed to learn how to carry herself with pride if she was to marry a duke, but she also said there was still time to learn. Mio congratulated Marie. It was only then that she realized Lulu had accepted her. The engagement was official, the room filled with cheers, but Marie stood frozen. Then finally she screamed she couldn't do it. That night, while gazing at the stars and sipping his wine, Kairos can't help but recall how lovely she is. But Mio soon pulls him back to reality. Marie has just rejected his marriage proposal. The memory hits him like a blow, and Kairos slumps onto the table in tears, unwilling to hear it repeated. Still, Mio reminds him it is her duty to deliver the truth. She adds without hesitation that he proposed to the wrong sister that night. It's true that the evening had been Marie's birthday, and no one would have guessed that the quiet girl sitting in the dark was the birthday girl herself. Kairos' father, Count Alfred Granado, had 2 wives. As children, Kairos and a girl used to share stories while arguments echoed down the halls from the Count's 2 households. His official wife was Lady Laura, a noblewoman, while his concubine was Lulu, a traveler from Ipsandros and Kairos' mother. One day, while chasing butterflies in the garden, young Kairos tripped and fell to his knees, crying loudly. Lady Laura approached and offered him a piece of sweet pastry. With just one bite, Kairos brightened. Laura smiled and admitted she had baked it herself. She teased him for trusting her so easily, but he was too taken by the flavor to mind. When she asked what other sweets he liked, he eagerly listed them, and Laura confessed her own love for sweets, explaining that baking helped her forget unpleasant things. Before leaving, she promised to make him chocolate cookies next time, and Kairos looked forward to it with innocent joy. Years later, Count Alfred summoned Lulu and Kairos for a private meeting. Despite Lady Laura being the official wife, all of her children were daughters, which meant only Kairos, the son of the concubine, could inherit the dukedom. Both Liu and Kairos were stunned. But the one most shaken was Lady Laura, who had been quietly eavesdropping outside the door. Then, one sorrowful night, a scream of grief rang through the castle. Kairos rushed toward the sound and found all his sisters gathered around Lady Laura's lifeless body. A half-eaten cookie lay in her hand, and beside her, a small vial of poison. Kairos was stunned. The woman who had once shown him such kindness had chosen death. After her passing, Lulu was offered the position of the official wife, but she refused. Instead, she left the Duke's estate, taking Kairos with her. Over the years, Kairos earned the title of Count through his own merit. Still, he held no affection for noble society. He avoided their gatherings, rejected marriage proposals from noble families, and tore up invitations bearing old family names. Eventually, Kairos made a rare appearance at a noble party. His friend Rufun teased him for finally showing up, though Kairos reminded him he only came because Rufun had personally invited him. As they chatted, Rufun handed him another invitation, this one from a rural baron. Apparently, the baron had sent invitations to every unmarried nobleman. The Shatteran family's financial struggles were no secret, and everyone knew the so-called birthday celebration was just a way to showcase the baron's daughter for potential marriage. Though Kairos found the gesture distasteful, rumors described the daughter as a rare beauty. Rufun, already engaged, had no intention of going. Kairos, though free to attend, initially chose not to. While he debated it, a blonde woman approached and offered him sweets. After he accepted one, she blushed and hurried away. Kairos was used to noble women favoring him only for his title and wealth. Beneath their polite smiles, he knew they looked down on Ipsandrians. Even now, whispers in the halls reminded him of their disdain. Though Rufun sympathized with him, he reminded Kairos that he couldn't remain unmarried forever. Without a wife, there would be no heir to continue the line. As he left, Rufun remarked that he was eager to meet the woman who might finally move Kairos' heart. Those words lingered. Glancing again at the invitation, Kairos reconsidered. Perhaps the daughter of a struggling household would be a practical match. If marriage was to be a mere arrangement, then someone manageable would suffice. Kairos never expected to fall in love until that night he met Marie. Marie's fascination with Ipsandrian culture completely disarmed him. He had fallen for her, yet somehow he had let her slip away. At the gathering, he saw Baron Shatteran entertaining guests. When he asked about the Baron's daughter, he was pointed toward a blonde girl, the star of the night. The Baron had two daughters, the elder Anastasia and the younger Marie. Since it was Marie's birthday, Kairos assumed the quiet girl he'd spoken to was Anastasia. Realizing his mistake, he searched the estate for the quiet girl from the garden, but she was nowhere to be found. So he sent a formal letter requesting the hand of Baron Shatteran's elder daughter, Anastasia. When her reply came, Kairos spared no expense to prepare. He arranged jewels, dresses, maids, even a body pillow to ease his sleepless nights. But tragedy struck. News arrived that her carriage had fallen. His heart shattered. Only then did the truth emerge. The girl he had fallen for was not Anastasia, but Marie, younger daughter. Back in the present, Mio tried again to pull Kairos from his sorrow. He winced, unwilling to hear the truth aloud, but Mio pressed on. She reminded him that when Marie arrived at the castle, transformed, he rejected her without knowing. On her very first day, he had her sent away. To Marie, it must have seemed like he was disgusted. No wonder she believed he wanted nothing to do with her. Kairos now hoped that clearing up the misunderstanding might mend things. Mio agreed. After all, he was the only one truly in love. Together, they went to Marie's quarters, hoping to see her smile. In her room, Marie stared at her reflection. Her tattered clothes and messy hair had been replaced overnight, and the transformation made her nearly unrecognizable. Her thoughts scattered at the sound of a knock. When Mio and Kairos entered, Marie bowed her head immediately and apologized. She admitted she panicked during the proposal and acted improperly. Kairos, understanding her distress, pulled her to stop bowing. When she looked up, he saw her clearly and blushed. Mio stepped on his foot discreetly to bring him back to his senses. With a steady breath, Kairos began to explain. He assured Marie that he didn't hate her. Not at all. He believed she had come to the castle of her own will. Regardless of the confusion, his feelings were sincere. He wanted her to be his wife. To his surprise, Marie accepted. She explained that she had been shocked earlier and had meant to refuse. She never intended to reject him and had understood the situation from the start. She believed the marriage to be one of convenience. After all, Kairos had fallen for the beautiful Anastasia, or so she thought. Now, with Anastasia gone, the burden fell on her. Marie, the useless younger sister. She accepted this and even said Kairos could treat her however he wished. Kairos was stunned by her self-deprecation. He explained again that while his intentions began as political, his feelings had changed. The letter he had written, though addressed to Anastasia, was meant for the girl he had met in the garden. She nodded, saying she knew his feelings had been meant for someone else. That was exactly why she misunderstood everything. Kairos wanted to say more, but the bell rang. It was time for dinner. At dinner, Marie was stunned by the richness of the food. She had never eaten anything like it. Before she could comment, Kairos put down his utensils. He could wait no longer. He confessed that the letter had never been meant for Anastasia. He had confused the names. The one he had fallen for was Marie. Though she responded politely, Kairos could see that she didn't believe him. She thought he was only trying not to hurt her feelings. Deep inside, she believed he was marrying her out of convenience. She assumed that in time he would take a concubine and she would return to her old life. Still, she didn't mind. She had lived that way before. She could live that way again. Later, during tea, Kairos gently told her he loved her. Mary found the idea absurd and remained silent. Her lack of response unsettled him, but he continued. Regardless of how she felt now, their engagement would proceed. The ceremony was set in 3 months and he would handle all the arrangements. Before he could leave, Marie asked for a favor. She wanted to return home once before the betrothal. She explained that her father expected her to serve as a one-night comfort and be cast aside. She wanted to hear his final instructions herself. The request frustrated Kairos. He told her he would need time to consider it. Not long after, Mio brought news. Marie was forbidden from returning home. If her family wanted to visit, they would need Kairos' permission. Then gently, Mio asked a question she had long kept to herself. She wanted to know why Marie believed she was ugly. After a long pause, Marie revealed that her parents had made sure she saw her reflection only when she was ragged and dirty. Sympathizing, Mio took her hands and encouraged her to see her true self in the mirror. That night, alone in her room, Marie gazed at her reflection. She thought of Mio's words, but deep down, she believed she had never truly seen the real her. She sat on the edge of the bed and her expression changed as she sank into the soft mattress. Lying down, she stared at the ceiling in quiet wonder. The palace, the clothes, the maids, and the count who now wanted to marry her. It all felt like a fleeting dream. One she feared would vanish when she awoke. Even as she tried to sleep, Kairos' words echoed in her mind. And even if it was just a dream, she wished it could last a little longer. When morning came, she instinctively rose to begin her chores. But the sunlight streaming in reminded her where she was. She closed her eyes again, unable to believe it. Soon, Mio arrived with 2 attendants. As they bowed, Marie instinctively bowed even lower. Mio gently reminded her to be at ease. Now that she was the Count's fiancé, they would serve her needs from this day forward. Hannah and Lisa, the 2 attendants, were now by her side. Everything still felt like a dream to Marie. Having 2 attendants to help her was far beyond anything she was used to. The attendants looked at each other, quietly watching how she behaved. Despite feeling nervous, Marie asked where they came from. They told her they had worked in the royal palace and were recommended by the 3rd prince. Their graceful manners reminded Marie of her own parents. Before she could think more about it, Mio gently called her name and asked if she was ready for breakfast. When Marie sat at the table, she was amazed by the large amount of food in front of her. Mio explained what each dish was, and Marie noticed how many different kinds of meat there were. It seemed the kitchen had prepared many options to see what she might like. Sensing Marie's hesitation, Mio kindly told her that she didn't have to eat everything and could choose what she liked. Marie then offered to share her food with Mio, but Mio refused, saying that attendants were not allowed to eat with their master. With no other choice, Marie took a bite. To her surprise, the food tasted amazing, and soon she was eating happily, plate after plate. Even when she started to feel full, she kept going because everything was too delicious to leave behind. Eventually, her stomach couldn't take any more. Mio quietly cleared the table, and Marie felt bad for leaving any food unfinished. The next item on the schedule was a tour of the palace. But first, Mio brought Marie to a wardrobe room. With the doors open, Marie was shocked to see so many gowns and shoes inside. She made a joke to herself about having only one body and not being able to wear them all. Mio explained that the wardrobe was filled with clothes for all seasons and special events. When Marie was asked to pick one, she felt overwhelmed by the number of choices. In the end, Mio chose a soft yellow dress for her. As they walked through the estate, Mio told her the history of the place. The Granada Castle was originally built as a border defense. After the war, the family earned the title of Duke and were given their own lands to govern. Although connected to the royal family, they were not in line for the throne. These days, the castle was mainly used for important gatherings. Their next stop was the manor house where Marie would live. As they entered through a side door, Marie saw a beautiful yard filled with plants and flowers. Mio said the Duchess herself had designed the manor. The first floor had the kitchen, rooms for staff, and private rooms for close family and guests. While they were walking through the hall, they ran into Thomas. Marie quickly bowed and apologized for how her father acted during their first meeting, but Thomas simply brushed it off. They introduced themselves properly, and Marie recognized his name from a story about a hero who once discovered an island. Thomas confirmed it, saying he lived there. But before the conversation could continue, Mio stepped in and pulled him aside without hesitation. She firmly warned him not to get too close to the Duke's fiancé, and Thomas backed away, clearly apologetic. As Marie looked around the manor, she started to wonder if Kairos did trade with countries from all over the world. Mayo explained that he mostly traded within the kingdom of Efandro. Marie had asked because she thought the handmade decorations around the house were from foreign lands, but Mayo said they belonged to the staff, who came from many different places. Kairos hired people based on their skills, not their background, which was why the staff respected him so much. Curious, Marie guessed that Mayo might also be from the capital, but Mio told her she had actually been abandoned as a child and found on the side of the road. Marie felt sorry for her, but Mio gently said there was no need for pity. She was living a good life. Mayo explained that the other two attendants, Hannah and Lisa, came from noble families and were used to serving high-ranking ladies, which was why they had been chosen to assist Marie. Still, Marie found herself more interested in hearing stories from people who had lived different kinds of lives. She kept that thought to herself and simply thanked Mio. That evening, Lisa brought Marie her after-dinner tea. Out of habit, Marie asked for milk, but both attendants rudely told her it would ruin the tea's flavor. Though they were polite, Marie could feel their disapproval. Feeling awkward, she gave up her usual preference and drank the tea as it was. That night, as Marie lay in bed, her thoughts drifted to Kairos. She wondered if he was still busy. Far away in another land, Kairos was indeed riding in his carriage, also thinking of her. Just as he was lost in thought, his coachman reminded him of his busy schedule the next day. With a sigh, Kairos wished he could return home soon. A few days later, Marie enjoyed another delicious breakfast. As she bit into the fresh vegetables, she asked Mio where they got such tasty produce. To her surprise, Mio told her they were grown right in a courtyard garden. Curious, Marie said she'd like to visit. Since Maya would be busy preparing for the Duke's return, she suggested Marie go with the maids Hannah and Lisa. Marie was unsure at first but saw it as a chance to get to know them better. Later that day, Marie went to the garden and met Johan, the gardener. She asked him questions about how he grew the vegetables, and Johan happily answered. When he saw how interested she was, he asked if she liked gardening too. Marie told him she used to grow and sell vegetables back home to help her family, though she struggled with tomatoes. She was impressed by his tomato plants and asked how he managed to grow them so well. Johan invited her to come along so he could show her. As Marie followed him, she heard Hannah and Lisa whispering behind her and noticed they were watching her steps across the dirt. She felt like they were making fun of her. Maybe she deserved it, she thought, but Johan didn't. She paused, looking down at the fancy shoes the Count had given her. They were too nice to get dirty. That thought made her stop in her tracks. That night, unable to sleep, Marie went for a quiet walk through the palace. When she passed the dining hall, she saw the lights still on. Curious, she peeked inside and was surprised to see Kairos. He had just arrived and was about to eat a late dinner. When he saw her, he smiled and invited her to join him. They started talking gently about how her stay had been so far, but their chat was soon interrupted. Mayo entered the room, followed by a shy man trying to stay hidden. It was Tapo, the palace chef, carrying a warm bowl of chicken soup. Marie's face lit up. Kairos asked him to prepare a bowl for Marie too. After one bite, Marie praised the soup and said that all the food at the palace had been wonderful. But to everyone's surprise, Tapo started crying. He said there was no need to flatter him, especially since Marie never finished her meals no matter how hard he tried. Kairos turned to Mio, asking if that was true. Mayo explained calmly that Marie often gave unclear answers when asked. Flustered, Marie quickly explained that she did like the food, but she just got full easily. She even felt guilty for wasting it. Tapo was deeply moved to hear this and got even more emotional, happy that she enjoyed his cooking. Mio then quietly said she would prepare tea for them. Wanting to cheer them up, Tapo decided to make a special dessert. Soon, he returned with a warm apple pie. Marie guessed that maybe the reason Tapo got upset when food was left uneaten was because he assumed everyone had the same appetite he did. She and Kairos invited him to join them. In the end, they all cleaned their plates, with Tapo eating half the pie himself before leaving happily. After he left, Kairos gently told Marie he was sorry for putting her in situations where she had to keep her feelings inside. He asked if there was anything bothering her or anything she wanted. Marie said no, but you mentioned Hannah and Lisa. Marie hesitated and said they were kind and took care of her, but Kairos wasn't convinced. He told her that, as the future duchess, she deserved attendants who suited her better. She didn't need to pretend to be happy if something bothered her. He encouraged her to be honest about her feelings. But Marie had never asked for anything in her life. She was used to accepting whatever was given. To her, that had always been enough. She didn't want to seem ungrateful after receiving so much kindness from the Count. But Kairos gently promised to give her anything she wanted. Those words quietly broke down a wall inside her. Their quiet moment was interrupted again when Mayo returned, carrying their tea along with a huge pile of mashed potatoes. At first, they thought it was for them, but Mio took it away. It was her midnight snack. On the table, 2 small kettles were stacked over a burner. Kairos explained it was a traditional Ipsandrian tea set. The fire heated both kettles. Once the water boiled, it was poured over the tea leaves, then placed back on top. Later, the strong tea was poured into cups and mixed with hot water to adjust the taste. As they waited for the tea, Kairos asked Marie to tell him something about herself, but her mind went blank. The only memory she could think of was playing word chain games with her sister. Kairos then suggested they change the rules. They'd only say things they liked. He started the game with the word Marie, but she insisted they begin with A, so he changed it to apple pie. Marie replied with exciting if Sandrian stories, a phrase that caught his attention. It was the same thing she'd said when they first met. They continued the game, taking turns. Kairos kept naming sweets, while Marie listed farming products, simple and practical things. When it was her turn with the letter K, she accidentally said Kairos, then quickly tried to cover it up by saying she meant kiss. Kairos smiled, clearly understanding the slip, but said nothing and continued the game. He teased her gently by saying her name again, making her blush. Eventually, Mayo returned and noticed they were still playing. Only then did they realize the fire had gone out and the tea leaves were completely burnt. They tried to drink it anyway, but the taste was awful. Kairos asked Mio to fix it with milk and sugar, but she dryly replied that the two of them were already sweet enough. As Marie was about to fall asleep, her thoughts kept her awake. Memories came back to her. How she was chosen as a stand-in for her sister's engagement, how Hannah and Lisa treated her cruelly. But Kairos was different. He truly wanted to understand her. Meanwhile, in his room, Kairos hugged his pillow and thought about Marie. Just then, Mio walked in and caught him. Startled, Kairos quickly straightened up, but Mio simply asked how he felt after not seeing Marie for several days. To her surprise, he calmly said that he loved Marie and found her beautiful, which only made Mio more frustrated. She remembered how 5 days earlier, Kairos had told her to treat Marie with the highest care and give her everything she deserved. He believed Marie hadn't been treated kindly at home and wanted to surround her with comfort. But no matter what he gave her, Marie seemed to avoid those luxuries. Mio then shared her own story. She had been abandoned as a child but was taken in and raised by Lulu. Over time, she became the head chamberlain of Grenova's castle, a position much higher than expected for someone like her. She thanked Kairos for changing her life. Kairos didn't quite understand what Maya was trying to say, so she explained that she related to Marie. Coming from a poor background and suddenly stepping into nobility was overwhelming. She believed Marie felt lost and unsure, just as she once had. Back then, Mayo had feared it could all disappear one day. Kairos firmly said nothing would disappear. Marie was perfect the way she was. Just like Mio fulfilled her duties and Lulu treated her like a daughter, Marie also belonged. Mayo was surprised by his words and praised him for always valuing people. Then Kairos mentioned his upcoming trip and asked Mio to make sure Marie stayed comfortable. Even while discussing serious matters, he couldn't help but gush about Marie, hugging his pillow and rolling around with joy. The next day, Marie noticed her meal was smaller than usual, but just right. She finished it easily and felt satisfied. As she enjoyed her tea, Mio joined her. Marie was happy. She had always hoped to share a quiet moment like this with her. Then it hit her. Kairos must have left already. Mio confirmed it, saying Hannah and Lisa were now attending to Kairos so Mio could focus on Marie. As they chatted, Tapo the chef arrived with a tray. On it was a white pudding made of almond and fresh milk. He offered Mio a plate too. They both took a bite and froze in delight. Tapo proudly said he'd make more pudding for everyone, but Marie quickly warned him that Hannah and Lisa might not like milk. Mio raised an eyebrow and asked why Marie thought that. Marie then shared a small story. Once she had asked for milk in her tea, but Hannah and Lisa had refused. As Mio listened, her expression turned serious. As they walked down the hallway chatting, Thomas approached with a box addressed to Marie from the Shatterin household. Mio scolded him for not inspecting it first. Flustered, Thomas dropped the box, spilling its contents. He said Hannah and Lisa had already checked it. Among the mess, Marie found a letter from her mother and some old belongings, items clearly meant for a servant, not a noble. Mio realized immediately. Hannah and Lisa had tried to shame Marie. Enraged, Mio followed the sound of mocking laughter. Meanwhile, Marie quietly gathered her torn storybook and a red stuffed cat, trying to fix them. Moments later, Mio returned, dragging Hannah and Lisa with her and throwing them onto the floor. The two maids mocked Mio, calling her just a maid. They bragged about being recommended by Prince Rufin and claimed they would serve in the royal palace. Despite Mio's high rank, they insulted her and Marie, calling Marie a barbarian and Mio a forsaken child. Mio finally lost her temper. With sharp eyes, she called them foolish. Hannah charged at her, but Mio flipped her to the ground with ease, then did the same to Lisa. Thomas apologized again, but Mary said it was fine. She only asked for a needle and thread to fix her storybook herself. Later, Marie joined Johan in the garden, now dressed for gardening. Johan welcomed her happily. As she planted seedlings, memories returned of helping her family back home. But this time it felt peaceful, not like work, but like something she loved. Johan apologized for being distant before. He didn't want to cause trouble, especially as a foreign servant. Marie reassured him that she didn't care about such things. Everyone at the castle felt like family. Johann smiled, saying Kairos often said the same. As they worked, Thomas arrived with news. Kairos was leaving. Marie hurried to say goodbye. She found him tired, likely from thinking about her all night. As they spoke, Mayo mentioned removing Hannah and Lisa from duty. The two maids erupted in protest, claiming they were chosen by the prince and meant to be Kairos' concubines. They insulted Marie, calling her ugly and a replacement for a dead woman. That's when Kairos snapped. He scolded them harshly, saying they lacked any trait he could ever love. Unlike Marie, then he ordered them to be removed immediately. After they were gone, Kairos and Marie stood alone in the garden. He picked a flower and gently placed it behind her ear. He complimented her red hair, bright eyes, intelligence, curiosity, and her warm smile. Everything about her, he said, was beautiful. As he leaned in to kiss her, Mayo interrupted, reminding him of the time. They had forgotten she was still there. Nearby, Tunka and Johann watched and chuckled quietly. That same day, Kairos left for the royal palace. He would be gone for 10 days. When he returned, preparations for their engagement would begin. As Marie watched him go, she felt uneasy despite his reassurances. That night, Marie received a letter. It was from Prince Rufin, inviting her to a royal event. But the tone felt more like a demand. The prince wrote that everything was prepared and hinted that rejecting the invite could lead to grudges. Rufin, the third prince and head of the royal knights, was known for his charm and playful ways. The suddenness of the letter and its tone made it clear she had no choice. The next morning, a royal carriage arrived. Mary stepped inside, amazed by the luxury. Soon, she arrived at the palace. Mayo explained the kingdom of Dilts and wondered why Marie was summoned, perhaps because Rufin had recommended Hannah and Lisa. As they walked, Mayo described Rufin's odd sense of humor, but reassured Marie that he wasn't a bad person. They explored lively streets full of music and laughter. It had been 50 years since the war and the kingdom was thriving. Mayo handed Marie a local snack. As they enjoyed it, Mayo noticed Rufin was missing. She warned Marie to stay put if anything strange happened. Then she spotted him and rushed off. Left alone, Marie promised not to move, but then saw an apple peeling contest flyer. Curious, she walked over and asked to join. The vendor was shocked. A noblewoman with a knife? His comment reminded Marie of Hannah and Lisa's cruel words. But the vendor handed her an apple proudly, saying it bore the knight's stamp of approval. Just as the contest was about to start, someone snatched the apple from her. It was Prince Rufin. Grinning, he teased her and took a bite of the apple. Marie demanded it back, but he refused. Only when the vendor called him Highness did Marie realize who he really was, Prince Rufin himself. Mayo returned and confirmed everything. Rufin had simply been playing one of his usual tricks. The Rufin she saw earlier was just a decoy. With a respectful bow, he introduced himself, not only as a prince, but also as Kairos' friend. And in that moment, Marie saw the kind of man he truly was. After introducing himself, Rufin walked with Mayo and Marie around the kingdom. While they strolled, Mayo scolded him for arriving late. He apologized over and over, trying to make up for it. To lighten the mood, he suggested visiting the noble salon for a fancy buffet. But Marie refused. The memory of how Hannah and Lisa had treated her made her uncomfortable with noble traditions. Rufin apologized again, admitting he had made a mistake recommending those girls without knowing their real nature. Marie explained that being around nobles made her nervous. Understanding this, Rufin changed the plan and invited her to watch a swordsmanship match instead. Marie seemed unsure again, and Mayo quietly told her it was okay to say no, especially since competitions made her uneasy. Frustrated, Rufin lost his patience and blurted out his annoyance. Feeling pressured, Marie reluctantly agreed to go. Rufin brightened immediately and proudly shared that Kairos once praised his sword skills, which helped Marie relax a little. When they arrived, the semi-finals were about to begin, and the arena was loud with excitement. While they waited, Rufin casually mentioned how he once fell asleep at a concert and Kairos had to nudge him awake several times. Mary found it amusing how fondly Rufin spoke of Kairos. Mayo left to get food, even though she and Marie had eaten already. As the match began, the crowd cheered loudly. A knight in black armor stepped into the ring to face a silver-armored opponent, but Marie's mind wandered. Rufin noticed and asked if she acted the same way toward Kairos. Marie didn't know how to answer. Rufin smiled gently, telling her she was unlike anyone he had ever met. He shared how he first met Kairos back in school. They had gotten into a fistfight on day one, even though Kairos was a duke's son. Rufin outranked him. He had called Kairos foolish for caring about rank, which led to the fight. While they talked, the Black Knight quickly ended the match, winning with ease. Rufin commented that the knight must be holding back out of kindness. But what surprised him more was Marie's reaction. While other girls cheered and screamed, Marie showed no interest. Power didn't impress her. It made her uneasy. Rufin felt frustrated, wondering why Kairos would fall for someone who seemed so cold. Just then, another match began. The Black Knight once again defeated his opponent in seconds, but Murray wasn't focused on the victory. What truly caught her attention was the knight's kindness. He helped his opponent before accepting any praise. Mayo returned with food and casually sat down. She confidently said the Black Knight was Kairos. Rufin doubted her, but Mayo recognized his sword style and footwork. To prove it, she suddenly jumped up and screamed Kairos' name like an excited fan, then ducked out of sight. Her shout caught the crowd's attention. Left with no choice, the Black Knight removed his helmet. It was Kairos. The audience erupted in cheers. Mayo explained that every noble boy in Dilts is trained in swordsmanship from a young age, and Kairos had practiced since childhood. Murray realized right away it was Rufin who had arranged this all along. After the match, Marie and Mayo returned to the capital. Outside the palace, they saw a long line of girls hoping to become Kairos' new fiancé, now that his previous one had died. Mary felt a deep sadness, thinking of herself as just a replacement. Her sadness turned to anger when she overheard girls insulting Kairos, calling him a brute despite his honorable actions. Mary couldn't stay silent. She tried to push through to find him, but the girls blocked her way, demanding to know who she was. Mio then stepped in, creating a distraction so Mary could slip past. Inside, Kairos had no idea that Rufin had signed him up for the tournament. Their conversation stopped when Marie suddenly entered, making a bit of noise. She smiled warmly and congratulated him, leaving him speechless. He wondered if he was dreaming. Rufin admitted he invited Marie on purpose so she could see Kairos' strength. But Marie didn't seem happy. Kairos quickly explained that Marie disliked violence and noble traditions. He didn't care about those things either. Still, Rufin insisted Marie looked unhappy and accused her of being nothing more than a replacement bride in a political marriage. Marie couldn't argue. She knew the engagement wasn't based on love. Her silence convinced Rufin that she didn't care about Kairos. He told her to leave, saying he didn't want his friend to suffer. His words became cruel, mocking Marie for not fitting into noble life. Kairos lost his temper and grabbed Rufin by the collar. Rufin didn't back down and insulted him further. The fight escalated until both drew their swords. Marie watched, frozen with shock. They clashed until Rufin formally challenged Kairos to a duel in the arena. Kairos calmly accepted. After Rufin left, Marie begged Kairos not to go through with the duel. With shaking words, she admitted that everything Rufin said was true. But what hurt her most was hearing others insult Kairos because of her. She cried silently, tears running down her cheeks. Kairos understood Rufin's intentions. He only wanted to protect him from heartbreak. But it didn't excuse how he treated Marie. Kairos was determined to stand up for her. Marie thanked him for defending her, but Rufin's insults still lingered. Kairos gently kissed her hand. Both of them blushed, lost in the moment. Later that day, the duel began. The crowd roared with excitement. Marie and Mia watched from the same seats as before. Kairos urged Rufin to wear a helmet, worried he might hurt him. But Rufin refused and told Kairos to do it instead. In the end, both of them tossed their helmets aside and began the match. At first, they seemed evenly matched. Then Rufin knocked Kairos' sword away. But Kairos didn't give up. He kept fighting without a weapon. Soon, he managed to disarm Rufin as well. Rufin threw a punch, and the match turned into a fistfight, something not allowed by the rules. Still, neither of them backed down. Finally, Kairos landed a powerful punch that sent Rufin to the ground. The fight was over. Kairos was declared the winner. Mary jumped up and cheered, and the crowd joined in. Kairos then called out to her. As she reached the stage, he suddenly lifted her into a bridal carry and faced the crowd. Boldly, he announced their engagement. The audience gasped and whispered, shocked to hear that Marie, daughter of the little-known Baron Shadowrun, would be a future countess. Kairos encouraged her to look at the crowd, but Mary felt too shy. Deep down, she didn't think she was worthy. But Kairos held her close and reassured her. The crowd cheered louder as Murray finally looked up. Together, they stood tall while the people shouted their support for the future Granado couple. That afternoon, Marie returned to the vendor running the apple peeling contest. The vendor recognized her and apologized for not stopping the prince earlier. Marie didn't mind, she just wanted to join the contest again. The vendor gave her an apple, but before she could start, someone snatched it away. It was Kairos, eager to compete with her. He peeled the apple skillfully. Marie asked how he learned, and he said it was from camping on business trips. She brought up Rufin, curious how he was doing. Before Kairos could answer, a familiar voice replied it was Rufin himself. Kairos scolded him for the earlier drama and shoved an apple into his hand, challenging him to compete. Marie, experienced in peeling fruit at home, shared some tips. Kairos complimented her as they worked, which made Rufin grumble that Marie didn't even like him. But Kairos stayed cheerful, even saying how wonderful life would be after they married. Seeing how sincere his friend was, Rufin finally gave up. As he turned to leave, Marie called out. She asked if he would tell her more stories about Kairos another time. She realized Rufin only brought her here to show her Kairos' good side. Rufin accepted and took a bite of the apple, only to find out it was a display apple. Kairos had tricked him. The two started teasing each other again, and Rufin stormed off, muttering under his breath. When it was time to leave, Mio said she needed to stay with her master. Marie would be returning with the coachman. Before parting, she and Kairos exchanged soft words that turned into sweet compliments. Then Marie did something unexpected. She leaned in and kissed Kairos on the cheek before quickly rushing into the carriage. Kairos stood frozen, stunned by her sudden gesture. He took a few steps after the carriage, watching it leave. Inside, Marie stared out the window. In a few months, she would marry Kairos, the man once promised to her sister. Though the engagement started as a political deal, she now silently wished for a marriage built on love. Meanwhile, Mio delivered a letter to Kairos. It was from House Shadowrun. As he read the message, his expression darkened. The contents made him wonder, what is Shadowrun's really Marie's parents after all? A letter soon arrived from Baron Shadowrun and his wife. It was full of harsh and abusive words. They cared nothing for Marie's well-being, only about bringing her back to enslave her again. This left Kairos deeply troubled, wondering how they could treat Marie with such cruelty. While preparing to leave on business, he asked Mio to investigate further on his behalf. A month passed since the festival. On this bright morning, Marie stood by the window, admiring the weather and feeling hopeful for the day ahead. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Wolfgang, her butler. Just as she greeted him, a young girl ran forward and hugged her tightly. Wolfgang introduced the girl as Cecily, his granddaughter and apprentice. Cecily proudly showed off the buns in her hair, and Marie warmly complimented them. During their pleasant exchange, Cecily mentioned that Maya would still be away for the day, so she would attend to Marie in the meantime. Their talk was soon interrupted when Wolfgang asked about Marie's dress. She chose a blue off-shoulder gown that suited her perfectly. Both Cecily and Wolfgang admired her appearance, and Wolfgang teased that Kairos would surely embrace her when he saw her. His words made Marie blush, for lately Kairos had begun to affect her in ways she could not explain. Eager to greet him upon his arrival, Marie and Cecily hurried toward the Count's quarters. Along the way, Tapa noticed them and remarked that lunch was not yet ready, but Marie simply replied that the Count was arriving. After exchanging farewells, they continued forward. Soon after, Johann approached for the bouquet, suggesting Marie take the flowers with her. She accepted them gladly. When the Count finally returned, the castle attendants lined up in the hall to greet him. But what drew his eyes most was Marie, standing gracefully at the top of the staircase in her gown, holding the bouquet. She descended slowly and offered the flowers to him. Kairos, however, did not take them. Instead, he told her they suited her better and that she herself was like a flower, an even greater gift. Kairos teased that he almost embraced her, which made Marie shy. Then, to her surprise, Kairos offered his hand. She thought he intended to take the bouquet, but instead he reached for her hand and brushed her sleeve. Startled, she froze, but Kairos calmly took a single flower from the bouquet and placed it in her hair while praising her beauty. Marie assumed he was only teasing again, though his gesture lingered in her heart. That night, Marie lay awake in her room, exhausted. She had hoped they might share dinner together, but once again, Kairos had to leave. With the betrothal ceremony drawing near, she felt her nerves tightening. Beyond what her father had taught her and what she learned in school, she realized how little she knew. An idea struck her, and she went to retrieve the red anicapped book from her drawer. But when she opened it, she found the pages torn and scattered. Hoping to repair it, Marie sought Wolfgang's help. As they walked through the castle halls, they noticed light shining from a nearby room. Curious, Marie peeked inside. The door opened and Lulu appeared. Marie greeted her warmly. Though surprised to see her wandering so late, Lulu invited Marie into the vast library. Marie was amazed by the countless shelves of books. On the table, letters lay spread out. Marie asked if Lulu did not have a scribe to help, but Lulu explained that since Kairos was very busy, she assisted him in writing. These were invitations for the betrothal ceremony, meant to be written by the couple themselves or someone close to them. Marie quickly offered her help, and Lulu accepted gratefully. While working, Marie mentioned that she could also write Ipsandra. This caught Lulu's attention. Marie explained that while she wasn't good at speaking the language, she was skilled at reading and writing it. Wolfgang added that Marie loved Ipsandrian stories, especially the red anicapped book she wanted to repair. Lulu smiled with nostalgia as Marie recalled how her sister Anastasia used to read it to her. Her father often called her strange for studying foreign languages, but Lulu praised her. Knowing many languages was useful for trade and diplomacy, Lulu admitted Ipshan was not as practical as Florine or Shannon, but Marie surprised her by saying she knew those too. Many of her family's tenant farmers were immigrants, and she had learned their languages to help manage affairs. Lulu thought it unusual that Marie had taken on work that belonged to her father, but Marie explained she was only helping. Writing letters had always been her passion, and doing so, even in her father's name, made her feel connected to people. Impressed, Lulu asked Marie to sign her name, not as anyone else, but as herself. Like many others, she once thought Marie would be helpless, just a country noblewoman chosen for Kairos. But now she saw Marie differently. She was proud of her and cared about her future. Meanwhile, Kairos returned to the palace, where Mio presented her investigation results. Documents confirmed Marie was truly the Baron's daughter. Kairos still doubted, but Mio was certain. The family records showed no adoption or remarriage, only joy when Marie was born. Since the hospice had only one bed at the time, there could be no mistake. Kairos, however, struggled to believe Marie's own parents could treat her so cruelly. Mio reminded him that not all birth parents gave love, as she herself knew too well. Then Mio handed him a new letter. It claimed Marie's father was on his deathbed and demanded her return. Kairos knew that if Marie learned this, she would want to go back. Yet he also wanted to protect her, without keeping her trapped inside the castle. As he walked down the hall, Kairos overheard Lulu teaching Marie how to curtsy. Looking in, he thought Marie was being bullied and rushed in to stop it. But Marie greeted him warmly, leaving him flustered. Lulu then asked him to be Marie's practice partner. Kairos believed such formality was unnecessary, but Lulu insisted and praised Marie. To his surprise, Marie's movements were graceful and poised. Lulu also revealed Marie's role in writing the betrothal letters. Though Kairos disliked the idea, Lulu reminded him not to treat Marie like a fragile bird, but to let her grow. Their talk was cut short when Marie asked how she had done. Kairos complimented her, and Marie beamed with joy. Her smile reminded him of the first time he had seen her look so genuinely happy. Later, Lulu suggested a tea break. As Marie was about to leave, Kairos stopped her and handed her the letter from home. He said that if she wished to return, he would go with her. But Marie quickly dismissed it. She said the letter was false. Though the handwriting matched her father's, she reasoned that if he were truly dying, he couldn't have written it. She suspected there had been other demanding letters too, which Kairos admitted. He apologized, but Marie brushed it off. She explained her family probably just wanted her back to work as a maid. They didn't want her for herself, they hated her. At last, she understood that their cruelty had never been discipline, only hatred. Kairos had once thought Marie accepted it because of her appearance, but now he saw her strength. Marie thanked him, saying his care and the kindness of the castle people had helped her realize her own worth. He embraced her, creating a tender and awkward moment. During tea, Tonka casually praised Marie's outfit, which she accepted with gratitude. Encouraged, Kairos also tried to compliment her, but Marie grew shy and flustered. She admitted she wasn't used to compliments from men, making Kairos quickly apologize. Soon after, Tapo arrived with a blueberry tart and praised her as well. This time, Marie answered gracefully, which unsettled Kairos. He realized Tapo was also a man and wondered if Marie's discomfort came from his own absences. He silently promised himself to stay by her side more. But Marie was already distracted, greeting Mayo, who had just arrived. Mayo asked Kairos for a leave of absence, explaining she needed to travel to a distant place even though she had just returned. She described her plans with such charm that Marie began to suspect she was going to meet a secret lover. Mayo advised Marie instead to spend private time with Kairos since their betrothal ceremony was approaching that very night. Before Mio left, Kairos handed her a pile of letters to deliver to Baron Shatterin if she met him. The letters contained warnings against anyone speaking ill of Marie and listed all her good qualities. He also gave her a purse of gold coins and instructed her to use the royal carriage. Though Mio was strong, he insisted that one of his attendants accompany her for safety. The next day, Mio departed with Thomas traveling by her side. She wore unusually casual clothing, which surprised him. He thought it unwise for him to accompany her and assumed she was meeting a lover. But Mayo explained that she was heading to the Shatterin lands where a tragic accident had occurred 2 months earlier. The package from Marie's parents had included another letter, this one from her younger brother Cedric, announcing Anastasia's return. Thomas was shocked, believing she had died. A story claimed her carriage had fallen off a cliff, but investigations revealed that bandits had attacked them. While fleeing toward the river, the carriage was overturned by the muddy current. Even so, Mayo insisted there was no way Anastasia had survived. The river was too cold and swift, and rescue had not reached them in time. In the Shatterin home, Melvira, Marie's mother, was happily combing the golden hair of the girl she called Anastasia. During a short break from their journey, Mio carefully explained everything to Thomas. Anastasia had been traveling by carriage arranged by her father on her way to Granada's castle. For the first few days, the trip went smoothly. But near the capital, the carriage was suddenly ambushed by bandits. In a desperate attempt to escape, Anastasia slipped and fell into a river swollen by heavy rainfall. The driver tried to save her, but his body was already too wounded. Everything Mio told Thomas came directly from the driver's testimony and the police investigation. What unsettled Thomas most was Cedric's letter to Marie claiming that Anastasia had returned home. If that were true, Marie needed to distance herself from Kairos immediately. Even so, Mayo insisted that Kairos' love for Marie was genuine. A few days after Mayo's departure from Grana's castle, Kairos stepped in to serve Marie in her place. Though the usual uniforms did not fit him, he was determined to look the part of her attendant. What he truly sought, however, was an emotional bond. He longed for Marie to connect with him as she did with Mayo and the other castle workers. Kairos did his best to fulfill his duties, but Marie became flustered whenever she met his gaze. Once, he even tried to arrange her hair, which only made her more nervous. When Kairos began discussing her dress, Marie's expression immediately changed. Fortunately, Cecily arrived just in time, kicking him from behind because he had promised her that she could be the one to help Marie dress. The two argued until Wolfgang intervened, apologizing for his granddaughter's behavior and scolding Cecily for disrespecting Kairos. The next day, Kairos suddenly barged into Marie's room, asking her to go on a date. He revealed that he had received a letter from Rufan inviting them to the royal capital, though he admitted he did not fully trust Rufan. Instead, he wished to go there with Marie alone. Dressed casually to conceal their identities, the two wandered through the bustling kingdom streets. Yet the way Marie addressed him still carried formality, so Karas urged her to call him by his first name instead, warning that her tone might expose them. A suggestion startled her, but since there was still time before their meeting with Rufan, Kairos proposed they take a short tour first. Extending his hand, he insisted they walk together to avoid being separated in the crowd. Meanwhile, Mayo and Thomas continued their journey, approaching the Shadowrun lands where Marie had grown up. Wide fields stretched before them, dotted with cattle herds. Thomas had expected something more modest, but Mayo explained the truth. Although the land was vast, taxes had steadily increased since the Great War. The landlord was responsible for maintaining the land, but the family was clearly struggling. Their first stop was Marie's old school. The receptionist failed to recognize Mio, so she smoothly pretended to be a noblewoman from the capital gathering knowledge about farming. Thomas could only stare in amazement at how effortlessly she shifted her demeanor. When Mayo asked if there were any students she could speak with, the receptionist explained that aside from Marie, the only other girl was the daughter of a local innkeeper named Karina, who had withdrawn midterm. Mayo quickly located Karina's mother, adopting another persona. This time she claimed to be a detective from the capital, lying smoothly that Karina might be in danger and requesting her old student ID. She succeeded securing the ID before continuing toward the Shadowrun mansion. Thomas grew increasingly uneasy with her methods, but Mio defended herself, insisting she had not truly lied, only bent the truth. Despite his worries, she hinted that her greater deceptions were only beginning. Finally, they reached the Shadowrun mansion. Though large, it showed obvious signs of neglect, far from how Mayo remembered it. Without hesitation, she strode onto the property, catching Thomas off guard. An elderly woman named Tamia approached, demanding to know who they were. With a charming smile, Mio introduced herself as a student visiting with her fiancé, calling themselves Karina and Henry. To support the lie, she presented Karina's ID. Pretending to fulfill a promise to Marie as her best friend, Maya requested to see her old room. Tamia agreed and led them there, opening the door to reveal a cluttered storage space stacked with boxes. Curious, Mayo asked why Marie had been made to work so much. Tamia explained it was because of her appearance, and that only her grandmother Sasha had ever shown her true affection. Suddenly, Cedric burst in, hoping to see Marie, but his father George quickly scolded him. Thomas shrank back in fear, but Mio boldly stepped forward, holding her false identity with confidence. George dismissed Tamia's claim, insisting the room was only for storage, and guided the two further inside to show Marie's real room. Along the way, he described Marie as shy and gloomy, but Mio countered with warm stories of her. When asked what item Marie had told her to fetch, Mio only laughed nervously, claiming it was a secret. George eventually led them to a well-kept room, but Mayo recognized it as Anastasia's. She explained that Marie had always loved to study, so her true room should be filled with books. Forced to comply, George reluctantly showed them another chamber lined with shelves before hurrying away. Thomas hesitated, unsure if it truly belonged to Marie, but Mayo seemed uninterested in the books. Instead, she pressed close to the window and began eavesdropping. They overheard Melvira, Marie's mother, speaking softly and caught Anastasia's name. Before they could hear more, George returned, announcing that the family planned to go out and their visit must end. Mio politely agreed, but when George suggested Marie should come to them next time, she countered that Marie was busy with her betrothal. George insisted that until the ceremony was complete, Marie still belonged to him. The tense exchange was interrupted when Melvira appeared, offering to serve tea. George quickly dismissed her, urging the guests to leave. When the family departed, Mio and Thomas pretended to leave, but instead lingered, circling back into the mansion. With Thomas's help, Mayo slipped through a window and unlocked Melvira's private chamber. Inside, they froze at the sight of a silhouette behind a curtain. They cautiously approached, calling out, but no reply came. Pulling the curtain aside, they were shocked to find not Anastasia, but a doll dressed exactly like her. Mayo examined it closely. The craftsmanship was lifelike, the hair real, and the dress identical to what Anastasia had worn the day of the accident. Back in their carriage, Kamas argued that Melvira had simply lost her mind with grief, but Mio disagreed. To her, Melvira seemed perfectly sane. Mayo remembered how the doll looked almost new, as if Melvira herself had made it. It resembled a real person, even with hair that was clearly human. What made it worse was the dress. It was the same one Anastasia wore on the day of her accident. That should have been impossible, since Anastasia's body had never been found. These strange details convinced Mio that something was wrong. She asked Thomas to take the next turn because she needed to meet someone, realizing the carriage's driver was surely lying. Meanwhile, in the capital of the adults' kingdom, Kairos and Marie spent their day like ordinary travelers, walking through the busy streets and tasting food from the stalls. Kairos shared stories about his days at the Royal Academy, where he had studied since the age of 12. The thought of a younger version of him left Marie quietly amazed. At one stall, they found a vendor selling Donderma ice cream made with playful tricks. The man teased Marie by pulling the ice cream away each time she reached for it. Flustered but determined, she finally took a bite, and her whole face lit up with joy. Kairos was so moved by her reaction that he dropped to one knee, overwhelmed by how adorable she looked. Their next stop was a merchant store filled with goods from across many countries. Kairos proudly pointed out fabric from Ipsandra, describing its quality. While looking around, Marie thought about buying something for Kairos as a gift. She had some money from helping Lulu with letters, but when she checked the prices, she was shocked. They were far too expensive. Instead, Kairos tried on a fine suit and asked Marie for her thoughts. When she suggested he try the more elegant outfits, his excitement grew. He ended up buying several luxurious sets, trying each one on just to show her. He even purchased a flashy uniform, saying it would cheer her up whenever she felt sad. As Kairos was changing, Marie wandered outside to the jewelry stalls. She stopped at a nearby store she thought would suit him well. Just then, a voice called from behind. Fear rushed through her as she thought she recognized her sister, but when she turned, she saw only a strange man. At first, he seemed like a normal seller, but his behavior quickly grew troubling as he insisted she join him for tea. Marie refused, but the man became pushy, and she called for Kairos. In a flash, Kairos grabbed the man by the collar and spoke sharply, making him retreat in fear. Marie apologized for the scene, but Kairos was left unsettled. He realized the man had been trying to ask Marie out. Marie admitted no one had ever done that before. At her old school, the boys only mocked her for being plain and poorly dressed. Kairos' heart tightened. He understood now that George had deliberately kept Marie in rags to hide her beauty and crush her spirit so she would never realize her worth. Anger rose inside him, but he made a silent vow to protect her. Taking her hand firmly, he promised never to let go. Marie felt warmth and comfort in his grip as they continued walking together. From a distance, a mysterious blonde figure stood watching them quietly. In the kingdom of Dilts, Kairos and Marie walked hand in hand through the market stalls. Marie bought something at nearly every stop, spices for Tapo, flower seeds for Yan, even bracelets, until their arms were full of goods. Kairos also chose gifts for Marie, so they decided to return to their carriage to unload everything before heading to their meeting with Rufun. Afterwards, Kairos brought Marie to the artisan's quarters, a place well known to the royal family and also where he had agreed to meet Rufun. Inside, Marie was instantly captivated by the dazzling display of gemstones and jewelry. Giovanni, the butler, greeted Kairos warmly and informed him that Rufun was still asleep upstairs. Kairos said he would wake him but advised Marie to stay with Giovanni, as Rufun had the odd habit of sometimes sleeping unclothed. While scanning the room, Marie's eyes were drawn to green gems. Giovanni explained they were fragments left during the cutting process, still high-quality pieces, often used for modest accessories. Since Marie was Kairos' beloved, he offered to gift her anything she desired. Startled, Marie instead asked for the price. The gems reminded her of Kairos' eyes, the exact same shade. Though expensive, she decided to purchase them. Giovanni carefully packed the stones and Marie accepted them with joy, never expecting she would one day buy such fine gems herself. As she admired them, someone suddenly appeared. Startled, Marie quickly explained she was not alone. The man pressed her with questions about Kairos, even asking if they had kissed. Nervous, Marie admitted they had not yet, though it was likely they soon would. At that moment, Kairos came downstairs, nose bleeding from Marie's innocent honesty. He immediately recognized the man as Rufun in disguise. With his cover blown, Rufun revealed himself, greeted Marie properly, and led them to the business he had summoned them for. Seated, Rufun presented a massive red stone that left Kairos and Marie speechless. He explained it was a rare red diamond, the only one of its size in the world. Once used as a bargaining chip in post-war negotiations, it had since remained locked in the royal vault. Rufin offered it to Kairos for 80 million euros. Though shocked, Kairos listened as Rufin explained further. If a royal wore such a gem, the people might revolt, but if presented as a gift to Kairos, no one would object. The Granada family's wealth now surpassed even that of the royals, thanks to their mercantile ventures. Nobility alone no longer guaranteed survival, as seen in the fall of Baron Shadowrun. Marie took Rufin's words to heart, silently vowing never to neglect her studies or duties. Please, Rufin lowered the price to 70 million euros and revealed that Kairos had been searching for a gem matching Marie's hair color. Though it was meant to be a surprise for their betrothal, Rufin accidentally spoiled it. Kairos admitted the gem's shade reminded him of Marie's beauty and thanked Rufin sincerely. Flustered, Rufin looked away but promised to craft the gem into a ring within a few days. That afternoon, Kairos and Marie rode back to the castle. Marie thought of his words earlier. Before, she always shied away from his affection, but now she understood him. With trembling hands, she offered him the gift she had secretly bought. Kairos tied it to his hair, making her smile warmly. She also revealed the emerald fragments she had purchased to sew into the hair tie. Though she didn't particularly like emeralds, they reminded her of Kairos' eyes. Overwhelmed, Marie opened the carriage window, claiming she felt hot. Outside, she suddenly spotted a blonde figure that looked like her sister, Anastasia. Instinctively, she reached out, leaning dangerously far, but Kairos pulled her back in time. Marie chose not to tell him what she saw. Instead, he held her hand tightly, wordlessly comforting her. She reflected on how happy she was that day, all because he never let go of her hand. Once she had felt insecure about them, but Kairos had always praised them. Unable to hold back, Kairos embraced her tightly. Kairos softly told Marie that if she did not like him, she should push him away. But she did not. Instead, she simply rested quietly against his chest. Then something strange happened. Marie suddenly drifted into a dream. In it, her sister Anastasia appeared, whispering for her to return to her rightful place as if demanding to trade lives. In the vision, Anastasia became Kairos' fiancé, while Marie was cast back into her old, lonely life. Though it was the way things were meant to be, the thought chilled her. A wave of coldness swept over her, and she collapsed. Kairos noticed her breathing grow heavy and realized she was unconscious. Panic struck him, and he urgently ordered the driver to stop the carriage and take them to the doctor. Meanwhile, Marie wandered in her dream. She saw herself as a little girl again. Back then, whenever she was sick, Anastasia cared for her. Their parents were always busy, but Anastasia stayed by her side to comfort her. To cheer her up, she would bring out the book Red Rabbit Cat, reading it with such energy that Marie couldn't help but smile. Marie had heard it so many times that she memorized parts of it, and the two would laugh as they recited lines together. But their joy never lasted when their grandmother Sasha entered the room. She ordered Anastasia to step away, scolding her even for her clumsy translations. Sasha insisted Marie must learn the book exactly as written. Though Marie was weak with fever, Sasha did not relent. She believed Marie was the brightest in the family and pressured her to study seriously, even demanding that she master the Flarian language before the age of 6. Anastasia, though fond of words herself, was disregarded completely. Marie did love the Ipsandrian tongue, but under Sasha's stern rules, it felt like punishment. She called out to Anastasia, wishing to stay by her side. When Marie slowly opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Kairos. It turned out she had collapsed from exhaustion and been brought to a doctor. Kairos explained that she had been groaning in her sleep. Marie quietly told him about her dream. He reassured her that it was the maids, not him, who had cleaned and changed her clothes. After resting nearly half a day, Marie felt much better. Dawn was already breaking, which meant Kairos had not slept at all, staying by her side. But he did not mind. Instead, he prepared soup for her. Seeing the bowl, Marie remembered how Anastasia used to feed her soup the same way when she was little. Caught in her memories, she absent-mindedly opened her mouth and Kairos innocently fed her a spoonful. Realizing what she had done, Marie blushed, apologized, and explained. Kairos listened intently. As she spoke, Marie wondered when she had started eating alone. Perhaps it was after her grandmother passed away. Kairos then brought her biscuits, which again stirred her memories. Anastasia had often snuck her biscuits, even when their mother forbade it. The memory made Marie's eyes sting with tears. Kairos noticed her expression and grew even more concerned. But Marie's thoughts grew darker. If only Anastasia had lived instead of me. She would be Kairos' fiancé now. Suddenly, her head throbbed. Kairos moved to call for the doctor, but she quickly stopped him. She didn't want him to leave her side, not even for a moment. He assumed she spoke only out of gratitude, but Marie paused. She realized she had been selfish. Gazing into his eyes, she finally found the courage to speak. As the sun rose, she told him how much she loved his eyes. In the past, his kindness had made her hesitate, but now it filled her with happiness. Right there, she confessed her love. Before she could finish, Kairos pulled her into a kiss. He confessed in return, saying that from the very first moment they met, he had already fallen in love with her. Normally, Marie would have rejected such a confession, but now she could only cry in happiness, accepting every word. Kairos himself looked on the verge of tears, grateful his love was returned. Still, he'd insisted on fetching the doctor and advised Marie to remain in bed while he was gone. But to her, his words sounded suggestive. Embarrassed, she hid beneath the blanket, though Kairos had never meant it that way. They exchanged quick apologies before he hurried out. Moments later, Marie heard a loud slam. Alarmed, she rushed outside and found Kairos at the bottom of the stairs. Before he could explain, Mio appeared, saying he had been skipping steps and fallen. Marie greeted Mio warmly, but Mio explained she had come with urgent news. She told Kairos she had brought someone with her. As they walked toward the hall, Marie quietly asked if her presence was necessary. Kairos assured her it was, though what she would hear might not be comforting. It was important, for it concerned her sister Anastasia. Marie's eyes widened. In the hall, Mio dismissed Thomas, who had been guarding their visitor. She held the man firmly and introduced him to Kairos. His name was Jacob, she said, and he was the driver of the carriage that Anastasia had ridden in during the accident. Kairos remembered that Jacob had once worked at Granado Castle years ago to earn money. Now he asked directly, was Jacob truly the one responsible for Anastasia's death? After endless questioning from Kairos, Jacob still refused to confess. His silence frustrated everyone, so they summoned Johann. At first, Marie didn't understand why, but then Johann revealed something. He and Jacob shared the same island roots. When Johann introduced himself, Jacob finally showed interest, his guard lowering just slightly. With that opening, Johann began to spin a story. He described life in the castle, speaking of Count Kairos' mother, who herself had once been a refugee. Jacob listened closely, drawn in by the shared sense of hardship. Then Johann delivered a shocking claim that Kairos never intended to condemn Jacob. Instead, he only wanted to compensate him for Anastasia's death. Mary panicked at Johann's words, but Kairos gently held her, signaling that this was all part of the plan. She realized Johann had been instructed to lie, hoping Jacob might finally reveal the truth. And it worked. Jacob began talking. He explained that Kairos was always bound to marry Anastasia, but only out of duty. In reality, his heart belonged to Marie. To Jacob, Anastasia was nothing but an obstacle, someone standing in the way of Kairos' true betrothal. In his twisted mind, this meant her death was convenient, something that even deserved reward. Jovan, playing along, suggested Jacob could even be recruited into castle service, free at last from the scoldings he endured as a carriage worker. Jacob burst into laughter at the thought, amused by how far things had come. Johann, sensing the moment, excused himself and left quietly. Now Jacob's memories began to pour out. He recalled the day everything changed, the day the store owner rushed in, full of excitement. The lord's eldest daughter was engaged, and Jacob was ordered to prepare their finest carriage. When the baron himself arrived, the proud store owner presented his best vehicle, quoting the usual high price. But the baron scoffed. He declared he would only pay half. The store owner protested, warning that at such a price they couldn't provide a suitable carriage or proper lodging for Anastasia. But the baron wouldn't budge. This was his own daughter's engagement, yet he showed no care at all. Jacob remembered his boss warning him, "Behave yourself, never touch the baron's daughter." Jacob already knew, but he found the whole situation strange. Wasn't Anastasia supposed to be well-loved? Why then did her own father act so indifferent? During the ride, Jacob tried speaking to Anastasia. He asked about herself, about her engagement, but she never once lifted her head. She sat in silence, gaze lowered, showing no interest in anything around her. That was when Jacob realized the truth. Anastasia was like a doll, living only under her parents' commands, valued solely for her beauty. That evening, they stopped by a river where Anastasia bathed. Jacob peeked at her, confident she wouldn't try to run, even if she was afraid. Later that night, as she lay in the carriage, he touched her. Though she trembled and wept silently, she forced herself to pretend she was asleep. Near the capital, Jacob suddenly stopped the carriage and told her they would camp there for the night. Creeping inside, he approached her. Anastasia begged him not to touch her, warning him that she was the Count's fiancé. But Jacob insisted. He argued that no noble would reject a woman already defiled by another man. Before Jacob could continue, Mayo snapped. She slammed him to the ground. Jacob screamed in pain until Kairos barked at her to stop. Even then, Thomas stepped forward, taking her place. He demanded details about the clothes and hair discovered on the doll at the baron's house. Cornered, Jacob admitted he stripped Anastasia's clothes himself, but the hair, that was different. Anastasia had cut it herself in desperation. She had even slashed him with scissors, leaving him with a scar. From this, Mio pieced it together. Jacob must have retrieved Anastasia's clothes and hair, then sold them to Melvira, who was mourning. Jacob admitted he hadn't planned it at first, but when he heard the Baroness was seeking materials for a doll, he seized the chance. To cover his crime, Mayo argued, Jacob destroyed the carriage and invented the story of bandit attack. But Jacob pushed back. He swore Anastasia fell into the river by accident. She slipped while trying to flee, he claimed. He never killed her. Marie, unable to bear more, ordered him to stop. Her voice trembled. To her, no matter what excuses he made, he was still the reason her sister died. Jacob only smirked bitterly. He insisted Anastasia deserved it. He claimed he discovered men's clothing in her bags, proof, he said, that she had other men besides her betrothed. His insults kept coming until Marie herself trembled with rage. She commanded he stop, but Jacob sneered and insulted her too. That was when Kairos stepped in. He punched Jacob hard across the face, sending him crashing to the ground. Marie broke down, overwhelmed by the truth of her sister's suffering. Mayo and Thomas could only watch in silence as Kairos held her. Through her sobs, Marie apologized, blaming herself. But Kairos admitted he too felt guilty for never mourning Anastasia's death. Mio confessed the same. They had all believed Anastasia was merely a reflection of the burdens forced onto them by their parents. Kairos confessed he once thought her death a twisted mercy. He even believed that proposing to Anastasia by mistake had been good fortune, because it spared Marie instead. Now, with regret, he wished to apologize at Anastasia's grave. But Marie revealed something heartbreaking. Anastasia didn't have a grave. Their father had refused to spend money on a gravestone. Her funeral had been plain, unmarked. In the end, her name was never carved into the cemetery at all. Still, Kairos insisted on honoring her somehow. He asked Marie what flowers, foods, or places Anastasia had loved, but Marie couldn't name a single thing. Their lives had grown too far apart. While Marie roamed free, ragged, and ignored, Anastasia was always dressed in finery, forced to stand in the garden as an ornament. Maybe, Marie thought bitterly, that was why the heavens took her away. Yet despite everything, Anastasia had still been a person, and Marie felt guilty for pitying her only after death. To honor her, Kairos and Marie walked to the river, offering flowers. Kairos explained that this waterway flowed toward the artisans' quarter in the capital, the very place Anastasia had once dreamed of working, designing clothes. Perhaps, he said, she would never feel lonely there. A soft gust of wind brushed past them. For a brief moment, Marie felt her sister's presence. She could only hope Anastasia was in a good place now. A week later, the castle slowly returned to normal. That day, Marie sat sewing gems into Kairos' hair tie. Lulu watched curiously, medicine kit in hand, though he wasn't really doing anything. When Marie asked to use his hair, Kairos obeyed instantly, like a loyal dog. She tied it neatly, and the two exchanged compliments, leaving Lulu smiling at the sight. Marie nearly forgot the gifts she had prepared for the castle's staff, so she hurried to distribute them. When Mayo hesitated to accept hers, Tudiko smacked her lightly, forcing her to take it. Flustered, Mio muttered a small thanks. Lulu remarked how everyone had changed since Marie's arrival. Then she surprised Marie with a gift of her own, an old book about a raggedy red cat, now beautifully mended. Marie was overjoyed. It held memories of Anastasia. But Lulu had another book as well, one about eminent figures from around the world. Kairos had specifically requested it. Inside was a record of Marie's grandmother, Sasha. Kairos recalled how often Anastasia had been compared to her, suggesting the likeness might inspire a portrait. Curious, Lulu then asked which side of the family Marie resembled. Marie explained that her height and features came from her mother, yet she alone bore red hair, something her family despised as a sign of misfortune. Hearing this, Lulu fumed at the injustice. Marie then admitted that she never understood why Sasha was so respected, but Lulu explained that Sasha had been a genius, fluent in 7 languages, a key figure in the Second World War, and later a pioneer for women in society. Her father, however, had always been different, and Marie reflected that perhaps the old discord between her father and Sasha had kept them apart. Sensing the heaviness of the topic, Kairos shifted the subject. He revealed that he had sent an invitation to the Baron about their betrothal, yet no reply had come. Marie admitted that her parents never expected it to progress, for she was only offered as Anastasia's replacement, so they would not have to return the gifts. At that moment, Mio interrupted, insisting that Marie's role might be too important to entrust to outsiders. Marie brushed it off, claiming she only did simple tasks for her grandmother. But Lulu looked deeper, for she realized that Marie wrote letters on her father's behalf. Perhaps the Baron didn't even understand the Florian language himself. Marie protested, saying her father could speak it, though she admitted she had never actually heard him. Because of this, Kairos then ordered Mio to send House Shatterin a formal summons. That marks the end of today's Recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.